Good morning. This is Amy Walker, and I am the Director of Strategic Partnerships at Committee for Children. And I'm really happy to welcome you today to our webinar on teacher wellness. And we are really excited to be able to share some ideas with you today, as we know that teaching is a really stressful job, even during the best of times. And we know that you're all, that you have so much on your plates right now, and you're working so hard to get your kids everything that they need, as well as homeschooling your own kids and all the other things you're working on. So we wanted to give you some ideas today for some things that you could do that can help. And without further ado, I would like to introduce you to my colleague, Rachel Cam.
Sure, yeah. Hi, I'm Rachel Cam. As Amy said, I work at Committee for Children. I've worked at Committee for Children for over 13 years as a program developer, and now as a senior manager of the Second Step programs. I've worked on just about every program that Committee for Children has developed. And again, as Amy mentioned, I'm recently focusing on the adult educators for our latest program in development, SEL for Adults. I'm super happy to be here today as a resource for all of you educators. As I said, we're going to start talking about educator wellness, why it's so important, not just for educators, but also for your students and really for all of us. But I need to start by acknowledging that a large part of the stress that you feel is because teaching is a really demanding job. It can be isolating. As educators, you spend less than 5% of your time collaborating with peers. Meetings when we're all together, like for instance, this webinar, it's a luxury. So responsibility, educators carry a big responsibility. Outside of the family, we know that educators are the most important figures in a child's social and emotional development. While it's a privilege, it's also a huge responsibility. And scrutiny. Educators also face high levels of scrutiny. Everybody seems to have an opinion about what educators do. Your performance, your curriculum, your grading, even how much time you have off. So yes, teaching is stressful. Most of us already know this, but it's been documented. Teaching is one of the most stressful professions. And that stress can affect your health, and it can affect how you feel about your job, your well-being. And so burnout is real. 56% of teachers report significant stress and burnout. And I just want to point out that these statistics were gathered before COVID. So I can only think that that it's gone up since then. Attrition, more than 41% of teachers leave the profession within 5 years. And student learning. When teachers are stressed, it can negatively affect student achievement. So if that wasn't enough to convince you how important it's time to care for yourself is, I want to show you this video that we made for educators highlighting why teacher well-being is more important now than ever.
We're living in extraordinary times. The effects of the crisis have been traumatic for everyone. COVID-19 has chipped away at the resilience of a lot of people. We can see impacts when it comes to our sleep. We don't eat or exercise in the same ways that we normally would. Our relationships with people, those may be disrupted, where it's difficult to trust and have the ability to connect with one another.
Every person handles a crisis differently. Some people might be frustrated, and some people might be sad, and some people might just push away. But we have to still build on community and still say, hey, you're a part of our community and we want you here. What can we do to help you?
In my conversations with teachers, I hear a lot of fear and feeling a sense of concern about their responsibility for keeping the children safe. Typically, when there's a trauma, it is short term, and then you have a recovery phase. When you're recovering from a trauma, it is important to recognize that you're going to have good days and bad days. There's an ebb and flow to recovery, and emotion is not fixed.
I've had to come on my campus without any students or without any of my colleagues, and it's the hardest thing to do. To walk into a ghost town school, I miss my students. I miss my colleagues. I miss seeing kids who love being at school.
There he is. High five moments right there. Yes.
Have a great day.
I am proud that we make it a daily routine, that we say hello and we bring energy and we high five and we give hugs and we laugh. Walking a campus without it is one of the worst experiences I've had. As leaders, we have to be ready for this. We have to understand that each day is a new day.
As we return to school, I think it's very important to start with social-emotional learning and building resilient skills. If we were to come in and start focusing on academics, pure structure, we lose the ability to recognize that kids can't learn when they're flooded with emotion. We can't learn when we're flooded with emotion. Children do not have the language to articulate all of their emotions. Ignoring and avoidance is typically the worst response you can do because it just lets it fester. Emotions fester and it doesn't give you an opportunity to get resolution.
We have to acknowledge that this was hard, and we have to take day by day, making sure we're working with our staff and with our students to make sure that they feel comfortable, safe, and welcome back. During this time of trauma, during this time of fear and anxiety, if you take a little bit more time on that personal connection, love, and I'm here for you, and then hop back into moving forward on the curriculum, I'm okay with that. I believe that's where we should all be.
Okay, so I know I've showed you a lot of not great news so far, but there's an upside. There are decades of research to show that when teachers feel well, their reactions are more helpful, they can perform better, and they're able to just be there in a real way for their students. All right, so now we're going to go on to what you can do about it. So I'm going to spend the majority of the rest of the time going over some simple self-care strategies that are based on research. All right, but I want to start with all of you thinking about right now, what's the most stressful part of your job? If you want to just write some of your responses in chat, that'd be great.
And that's a great question, Rachel. I know I've been talking to many educators. Let's see, deadlines was one that came up. I know I hear from people that they just talk about balance, like it's just so hard to prioritize so many things all at the same time. That's one thing I hear.
Yeah, and for those teachers that are, working from home, right? So if you've got kids at home and you're trying to teach class at the same time, you're trying to teach your kids, it gets really complicated.
We just had someone type that in, trying to be everywhere at once. I'm working from home and trying to also help my own children. Paperwork, yeah, that's, for sure. You're just trying to, I think especially school psychologists are often talking about that. Online professional development, ironically enough, I've taken so many. I realized the other day I was retaking one on SEL. I think teachers have had to do so much learning in terms of doing all this virtual teaching, to try to do what's already a stressful job and then learn all these new platforms. Juggling in-person and virtual, balance, connection, engagement, people not here at school, how to have informal conversations. This is hard work. Yes, it's such hard work. It's hard work even during the best of times. It's hard work.
Okay. Wow. Yes, it is absolutely a stressful job. So we're going to dive a little bit more into stress. And first I want to start off this section by addressing some of the misconceptions we all have about stress and emotions, just to frame it a little bit. Stress is bad for you and should be avoided whenever possible. It sort of feels like that, but actually from the research, we know that some stress can be beneficial. It can energize us at times when we need to have that extra push to get something done. If you've got a deadline, it helps you get there. However, there's an optimal amount of stress. While some stress can motivate us and increase our performance, too much stress for too long without having the resources to cope with the stress can really take a toll, not only on our performance, but on our well-being too. This next one, there are good and bad emotions, and it's better to only allow ourselves to feel the good ones. It might feel good to do that, but emotions are neither good nor bad.
And you know what's so funny, Rachel, too? I think teachers are always so good at recognizing that's the case for their kids. Teachers would always think for their students, they're so happy, they just are so understanding that we have this complexity of emotions, and being frustrated is fine and we just have to manage it. But of course, when it comes to ourselves, we hold ourselves to a different standard. So
right. That's exactly right. But you have to even remember for yourself, you're having those emotions for a reason, right? There's emotions are giving you signals. But the problem is though, where fear and anxiety say you're fearing fear and anxiety. It used to be like there was a saber-toothed tiger at your back, but now it's, you're worrying about your to-do list. And this is when it kind of can tip you over the edge. Okay. And the third one, having strong emotions is a sign of weakness. Well, having strong emotions, hopefully, is not about being weak or strong. Everybody feels emotions. Experiencing a strong emotion is a biological process. But the main thing is that we don't want to act in ways on a strong emotion that you might regret later. So this leads to just a simple strategy that I want to share with you. It might seem really simple, but it's called Name It to Tame It. And just like the name of the strategy sounds, it's simply naming the emotion when we're feeling it. So this is the kind of thing when a stressful event occurs, it can weaken our physiological response. And naming it can alleviate it. So I'm going to have you all practice. I'm going to give you a little scenario. I should have thought of a better one, maybe one that's more applicable now, but this is the one I've got for you. All right. So put yourself in this place. You're in a staff meeting that's going longer than you anticipated. Your principal asks everyone to stay an extra 30 minutes to wrap up. The agenda items don't seem very important to you, and you think they could easily be covered at another time. You know that if you stay for 30 more minutes, you're going to hit a lot of traffic on the way home. All right, so tell me, how are you feeling now? So, with these emotions, this Name It to Tame It strategy, now typically you can say it out loud, but that might not always be appropriate. So you can say it.
You're in the staff meeting and you're saying frustrated.
Right. So you can say it. You can say it to yourself in your head, or you can write it down. Right. So you can do either one of those right now. You could just think about how you're feeling about this situation in your head. You can write it in chat if you want, or say it out loud. All right. Not valued. Yeah.
Yeah, not respected. I think that's the thing with time too. When you feel like someone's using your very precious time when you're already working weekends and all that, and you feel frustrated.
Yeah. So putting emotions into words can help reduce the feelings of distress and the physiological response that we have to the thing that stressed you out in the first place. And when we verbalize the emotion, it activates a different part of the brain. So, and as I said, verbalizing, you can verbalize it to yourself. You can verbalize it by writing it down, or you can say it out loud. This is something actually that we're providing for the adults, and I found it super useful. And actually I've done, presentations where they've asked for copies of this wheel. It's an emotion wheel, but it gives kind of a range to emotions. And you might think that, oh, I'm just feeling anger, but really that anger might be frustration. Or if you dig a little deeper, it might even be sadness. So it's kind of interesting to explore the different levels of the feelings that you could be having.
And we're also sending you a copy of this PowerPoint afterwards, because obviously it's really small on your screen there, so you can't really see it that well. But in the PowerPoint we'll send you afterwards, you can sort of expand it out and view that better.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to keep moving right along because we have a lot of things to cover. So the next one, near and dear to my heart, is sleep. All righty. I'm going to give you some sleep recommendations, but we're going to do it in a multiple choice format for fun. All right. So I'm going to start with this first one. Multiple research studies have shown that sleep deprivation has a significant effect on mood. What's the recommended amount of sleep an adult should get per night? Choose one. 6 hours. What are you going to say?
I'm going to say C.
C. I see a lot of C's. Few B's. All right. And for the money, what is it? It's C. If you answered C, you're right. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention recommends that adults get 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep per night. So this may feel like an unrealistic goal, and it kind of does to me. But even small increases in the amount of sleep can make a huge difference. So sleep in. Okay. Next one. Lack of quality sleep not only affects our moods, but it is also related to negative health outcomes such as memory loss, a weakened immune system, and increases in junk food cravings. Lack of quality sleep is also related to life-threatening conditions such as heart disease, obesity, dementia, diabetes, and cancer. What percentage of adults in the U.S. are sleep deprived? All right.
One person asked, do naps count? Did you see that in the chat box, Rachel? What is the research showing?
Do naps count? Yes, I understand that naps do count. It kind of depends on how long you can have the nap, if you can get into your sleep cycle. So I think they recommend at least 20 minutes. If you can nap for 20 minutes, that can really improve your mood. Apparently, I've never been good at napping.
It's so hard I can't fall asleep.
I know.
It's on demand. Maybe sometimes on a plane, maybe, but that's it.
All right, we got a lot for
C. We have mostly
we got a lot of C's.
C's. We're
but what?
I'm thinking that the United States is not doing so good.
The answer is B. So what this indicates to me is that you all are feeling sleep deprived. The answer, like I said, is it's actually 1 out of 3 adults are sleep deprived, which I think is huge anyway, but it sounds like at least half of you are sleep deprived.
And I also think too that for those of you, that are teaching, especially middle school and high school kids, I think a lot of your students are also sleep deprived. I think that that's one of the things, that a lot of high school students that I know are not getting enough sleep themselves. They're up on their devices and things like that.
Oh yeah, that's absolutely right, Amy. And actually, I think so. This study was done with adults. I think you would see some different statistics for teenagers in particular during the last, 5 years. All right. Next question. I think this is my final one. Yes, it is. It's our final question. Exposure to blue light, the light emitted by many electronic devices, can interfere with sleep. For about how many hours before bedtime should you avoid blue light? All right. What's it going to be? What do people think?
And now, Rachel, do you know if that is checking a text message, or are we talking about really being on an app for a while, or is just being on a little bit?
Well, the duration in the studies is not about duration, but I think, when you say you're just checking a text message, Amy, is it one text message for 10 seconds and then that's it for the night? Or do you keep picking up that phone and checking your text messages?
That's a question.
Yes, that's the difference. Okay, so the answer is B. According to researchers at Harvard Medical School, we should be avoiding blue light 2 to 3 hours before going to bed. There was a study that found that adults who were exposed to blue light before bedtime had lower quality and quantity of sleep. Specifically, this study showed that exposure to blue light before bedtime reduces melatonin production. Melatonin is the hormone that tells your body it's time to sleep. And participants also woke up more frequently through the night. Now, they have now these filters on your devices, and they even have these glasses that can filter out the blue light. So I think that those are absolutely worth a try. However, the evidence isn't in yet on how effective those devices and filters are. But give it a try. Okay, so what are you going to do about this? Well, make a sleep plan. This is what the experts suggest, that you actually think about how you might change your sleep habits, how you might want to improve them. Make a plan. You pick one thing you'll commit to trying this week. So you want it to be actionable and you want it to be immediate. And at the end of the week, assess how it went, and then decide if you want to try building additional habits. So right now, what's one thing you might want to try to improve your sleep habits? Amy, you got any?
Well, I'm going to have to say the devices. I'm probably sending text messages too late, and I don't know if reading from a Kindle makes a difference, but I do read from a Kindle, but I think probably I'm on my computer and my cell phone too late.
Yeah, I mean, I think that during this COVID, I've started watching a lot of Netflix. I'm thinking I need to cut back on the Netflix at night too. So that's going to be my plan. All right. So
yeah, I think watching calming TV. I've been watching a lot of more calming TV during this situation, like a lot of nature documentaries and those things. I think too can they can kind of help me get into a calmer place in the evening.
And then just take a break and do a little deep breathing before you go to bed. Someone asked if the blue light glasses help. Give them a try. That's what I say. But again, there is no evidence yet of it. So it could be that that research has not come out yet. Okay. Now we're going to wrap up sleep and we're going to move on to food. So the focus of this section is not about being on any special diet per se, but it's really about making the connection between what you eat and how you feel. It's about how foods affect your moods. So I'm going to start this off by saying, are there any foods that you've noticed that affect your moods?
Does wine count as a food? I think wine affects sleep and
wine has calories. I'm going to say that could be one of them, and that might affect your mood. Pepper seasoning, I would say,
carbs too. A lot of heavy carbs that affects my mood for sure. It makes me so tired.
And I want to say chocolate for me. I feel like, I love it so much. And then I
too
crash.
Much caffeine. We had someone type in too much caffeine. Lack of food. Yeah. Gosh, I never had that problem.
Okay, so much of what you're saying, I hope I'm going to address here in some of these next points. So Dr. Deborah Wall, she's a famous researcher on nutrition, researcher and nutrition expert, claims that healthy food choices are happy food choices. Her work, along with that of other researchers, shows that making healthy food choices not only supports physical health, but it can also increase levels of happiness and well-being. And that's what we're talking about today. So on this next section, I'm going to talk about some of the research that connects foods to moods. So you're going to have to bear with me a little bit while I get my notes here about each of these. Okay, first one. What you eat is what you feel. So there's a large body of research showing that what we eat affects our mood. For example, nutritional deficiencies are associated with an increase in negative psychological outcomes such as mood swings, depression, and fatigue. There's been numerous studies that have found that eating whole food diets helps support our mental health. For example, one study found that participants who ate a diet of whole foods were protected against the onset of depressive symptoms, and that participants who ate unhealthy foods, these are things such as sweets, processed foods, fried foods, etc., were more vulnerable to the onset of depressive symptoms over time. All right, this next one. Vegetables are more effective at producing in the moment eating happiness than high fat, high sugar foods. Now this one, because I am such a chocolate lover, I'm going, really? But there is this common belief, and I had it, that high calorie foods taste better, make us happier, and even alleviate the negative moods. However, I was wrong. Research suggests that this just isn't true. In one study, Dr. Walligan and her colleagues measure participants' happiness levels while eating 14 categories of foods. Overall, study participants reported feeling as happy and satisfied while eating vegetables as they did when eating sweets. One of the biggest study findings was that eating vegetables promoted more in-the-moment happiness than eating any other food group. Yes.
I wonder if that's because we feel good about ourselves when we're making good choices. You know, like if you get the salad, you're feeling sort of proud of that decision, and you're feeling, that's part of. I mean, I'm sure the food is also part of it. I mean, it's most of it, but I think also I know for myself when I'm in a good pattern of eating well, I also feel like proud of myself and good about that.
It could completely be. It's just what the research bears out. We feel happier when we're eating a salad, regardless of why. Okay, so this final one, skipping meals affects how we behave and feel. All right, so sometimes when we're stressed, we skip meals or forget to eat in the moment. This may help us feel like we're being super productive. However, as you probably have guessed, research shows that skipping meals affects the body's ability to regulate blood sugar levels, which can lead to us feeling grumpy or more emotionally reactive than usual, or hangry, as people say. Okay, so now here's one that couples can probably relate to. Dr. Brad Bushman and his colleagues studied the relationship between blood sugar levels and emotional reactivity in married couples. They found that when a person had low blood sugar levels, they were more likely to feel and act aggressively towards their spouse. So the moral of the story for a happy marriage, don't skip meals and eat your peas and carrots. Give it a try.
Good advice.
Who knows? All right. So now we're going to go on to our food habits. All right. If you want to improve your nutritional habits, try making one change at a time. Is there a habit you'd like to improve? Can you commit to trying this habit over a couple of weeks? Write it down. As usual, write it down.
Put it in the chat box. How about put it in the chat box? Just share with us. What's one food habit that you would like to change?
Okay, I'm going to say mine, Amy. I'm going to try not to eat chocolate between meals. Maybe I'm going to replace it with a carrot.
A carrot, right? A carrot with peanut butter, maybe? Is that
Oh, there we go. I'm with you on the peanut butter. Love peanut butter. Eating more consistently.
I'm trying to drink. I think I drink too much coffee with too much whole milk and half. Like, I think every time I have a cup of coffee, it's like 400 calories because I just love all the mochas and all that. So let's see. We're going to eat breakfast more, eat more consistency, salt, a lot of junk food. Add a green smoothie. A green smoothie is a good way to do that.
Wow, look at everyone.
Yes, it's all we all know. We all know what we should do, don't we?
But it helps to write it down. So Amy, write down your cut back on the half and half.
Well, maybe I should just drink black tea. That would probably be a better use of
there we go.
Calories than chocolate and whole milk.
All right. And then I know here we are, physical activity. This is the next one. These are basic things, but all of these things are core to self-care and well-being. Why we move. We all know physical activity is important to our bodies. Better physique, but another really important side effect is that it's critical for your cognitive functioning, so really good for your brain and your mental well-being. Small changes to your physical activity routines can have a positive effect on your emotional well-being. All right, so benefits of physical activity. You knew I was going to go there. It improves
we all need to hear, right?
Right. Whether you do intense workout or take a gentle walk during physical activity, your brain releases chemicals called endorphins. These amazing chemicals can make you feel less anxious or depressed and increase positive moods. Okay, it increases your brain power. As you exercise, increased oxygen and nutrients delivered to your brain improve the cognition, helping you think more clearly, remember things, and concentrate. It increases your energy. It can increase your energy by strengthening your lungs, heart, give you greater capacity for other activities. And this is a long-term benefit. It's not just directly during or after exercise. It improves your sleep. Physical activity improves your sleep. It helps you cope with your stress and emotions, and thereby promoting a better night's sleep. And it just makes you feel tired at the end of the day when you got a lot of physical activity. And then finally, it reduces stress. Mild to moderate physical activity decreases the amount of cortisol your body releases and helps you feel more relaxed and less stressed. All right, so let's get going, right? It's surprising how small changes in activity levels can yield big benefits. So we're not talking about running a marathon. You're just adding 10 minutes of light exercise to your daily routine has shown to be beneficial for both physical and mental health. So how might you be able to sneak in an extra 10 minutes of activity, movement of some kind into your hectic day? Ideas?
I like walking because I think walking you don't have to change clothes for, like I think a lot of other exercise, if you have to actually change clothes, you're just not going to, for me, I'm not going to do that as much as just going around the block. And I do that in pre-COVID times in the office. I'll go on a walk around the block.
One thing that I've done, a really simple thing, is instead of trying to find the closest parking spot, to a store or whatever, I just park way out there and I walk. And if there's an option to take the stairs instead of an elevator, I take the stairs. So, and now it's just a habit. So that's a simple way of getting a little bit more exercise.
Yeah, I like walking. I think walking is my favorite type of exercise.
Oh, I see dancing. Dancing is way more fun than taking the stairs.
Yeah, we all need more dancing in life, don't we?
That's right. Stretch breaks.
Stretch breaks are great.
Yeah, that's good. Okay. All right, you guys. I'm going to move it along. I'm going to run out of time. I have so much to come over here. Oh, good. I'm getting towards the end here. And so I was going to say I'm going to end with self-compassion, but I'm not going to end with self-compassion. We've got one more after this. But self-compassion is really important. What is self-compassion? Researchers define compassion as the feeling that arises when you're confronted with another's suffering and feel motivated to relieve that suffering. So self-compassion is really when you turn this feeling inward towards your own suffering. And I know for educators and caregivers, you spend a lot of your day caring for other people, helping other people all day long, that you sometimes forget to acknowledge that you might need some relief, and you might need to give yourself a break as well. The benefits of self-compassion. Psychologist Kelly McGonigal describes its benefits as self-compassion, being supportive and kind to yourself, especially in the face of stress and failure, is associated with more motivation and better self-control. Showing yourself kindness is more effective than being hard on yourself. You don't get a lot of benefit from being hard on yourself. You're better able to cope with difficult experiences. And you're able to provide more emotional support to your students. All right, I'm trying to convince you guys to go easy on yourself. So here's a really simple self-compassion practice. It's give yourself a personal permission slip. So give yourself permission to do something to show yourself compassion today. For example, I give myself permission to cross off all but the top 3 priorities on my to-do list. What can you write on your personal permission slip today? Amy, do you have any?
Well, what's the saying that I'm always telling myself is that my best is good enough, like I'm always saying that to myself, like my best is good enough, and not every day my best is the best, but today in this moment for this situation, what I'm doing is the best I can do. And I try to tell myself that often.
Yeah. And sometimes I would even say, it's okay to be mediocre.
Yes, it's true. We can take a C every now and again, right? We don't always need to be an A student.
Yeah.
We can.
It's just okay. It's okay to do that and feel okay about it. I love it. I give myself permission to go to bed early. Yeah, you always feel like you need to accomplish a certain amount during the day. Even when you're exhausted, you feel like you need to keep working. I mean, I would say especially during this time when we have so many demands on our time, you really need to give yourself permission to take a break. Take a break even if you don't think you need a break.
Well, and also I think with some of the wellness strategies that you've just talked about, the exercise and the eating right and all that, I think also it's like we can also be self-compassionate when we eat that second piece of cake, that's okay too. And we can still go on a walk afterwards. Just because we have the second piece of cake doesn't mean we can't go on a 10-minute walk, it's that kind of like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm doing my best. My best it doesn't need to be 100%.
Yep. Your best is going to be good enough for today. Okay. And And now the final strategy is about gratitude. And I love ending with this one. Really, I feel like this simple habit has kind of changed my life. You're not alone if you're dwelling on negative aspects of your life right now. As humans, we're hardwired to pay more attention to the negatives than the positives. It's kept us alive. Sometimes it has been a matter of survival. Researchers call this negativity bias. But this negativity bias can take a toll on your mental health and add to the stress you're already experiencing. You can disrupt this natural negativity bias and enhance your personal well-being by intentionally paying more attention to what's going well and expressing gratitude for it. Okay. So this is the actual strategy. What it is, a well-researched, evidence-based routine that helps combat negativity bias, buffer stress, and strengthen bonds. It can be done publicly, for example, at the closing of a meeting, or privately, like in your journal. The gist of the routine is to stop and think of things you're grateful for, small and large. The key is to attune yourself to paying attention to things you appreciate or that bring you joy on a regular basis. For some, this may mean doing this routine every evening. For others, it may just mean doing it once or twice a week. So, why do it? Expressing gratitude regularly can change your mindset over time. It builds a habit of celebration and appreciation that can actually shift your mood to the positive. Expressing gratitude for what someone else has done has additional benefits as well. It can help you see others' perspectives and can motivate us to do kind things for others in return. This helps foster emotional connections between you and your colleagues and whoever else you're feeling grateful for, that will strengthen your collective ability to cope with challenging times. How it works. It can be done publicly or privately, like I said. The key is to be concrete and specific. Go into detail instead of making a list. Focus more on people than things. And now we're going to try it. So I would like all of you to think about, what are you grateful for today? And just write some of your responses in the chat. Yeah. Health, life, family. I want to express gratitude for all of the educators out there. I really feel like you are the first responders and you have an amazingly difficult job. And I really feel grateful for the work you do every day.
I've actually noticed that I've been feeling actually almost more grateful this year. Like I always kind of make an effort to practice gratitude. And this year I feel like it's, sometimes when life is hard, you do notice, and you do appreciate your health and the people around you and, your home and those kinds of things when you know that there's a lot of suffering going on in the world.
Yeah.
Before you have your parting words, I have a couple of resources I wanted to share with the audience here. We have a couple more minutes. And one of the things that we're doing at Committee for Children is we're doing this Winter Wellbeing series. And this is from one of our colleagues. Her name is Dr. Mylene Duong. She's a clinical psychologist, and she's doing an 8-week series where there's going to be a short YouTube video every week, which is kind of well-being ideas. And I'm going to go ahead and put that into the chat box here. She just started it this week. And so We only have one up on that YouTube page, but every week and through January, we're going to have a short video of Eileen just sort of sharing a wellness strategy, and we're going to include a link to that in our follow-up email as well. So that's another resource we have to recommend. And like I said, we're going to send you a follow-up email with this PowerPoint and some other things. And, we just all hope that you do all kinds of things right now to take care of yourselves. And we're all so grateful for everything that you're doing for our kids. And, in schools, it's tough times. So thank you for joining us. And I'll let Rachel wrap up with the parting words here.
The parting words speak for themselves. Be the reason someone smiles. Be the reason someone feels loved and believes in the goodness in people. And again, thank you all for joining us today. And I'm just really happy for the opportunity to share some of these resources with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.